Hey Travis, what's on your YouTube history?
I mean, I can look it up and find. Let me see.
This is Travis Smith, a letterpress printer and the founding partner of the Press Room.
Do you have any guilty pleasures?
No, all pleasures should not have carry guilt.
And today, he's exposing the videos he watches on YouTube. From his homepage to his history, this is the YouTube algorithm of Travis Smith.
My name is Travis Smith. I'm a letterpress printer and founding partner of the Press Room here in Austin, Texas, and this is my algorithm. So I've been a letterpress printer for the past 15 plus years. I kind of fell into this role. I started going to school for graphic design and pretty quickly learned it was all digital, all on the computer all the time. I discovered letterpress printing, answered a lot of the questions I had about how do you get true analog print artifacts, how do you express true grit and texture within your designs, and I kind of stumbled backwards into that. Love what I do. I actually get to, I'll say, play with some historic pieces of movie ephemera. We have a really significant collection of original cinema advertising cuts from the mid 20th century. I've always loved movies, always loved old stuff. Old movies have kind of a special spot in my heart.
What's your earliest memory of YouTube?
Oh, probably muffins.
What is that?
I don't know if I recall who even did that. I just remember, probably being in 10th grade around the computer and watching the Muffins short, strawberry muffins, pumpernickel. When did YouTube really? It was like 2005. Yeah. So that would have been probably junior year of high school. You know, the icon was the TV for a long time. It was like a way to make your own channel. And like in high school and middle school, we were always making goofy VHS movies. And YouTube was still not blocked on the computers because it was so new and seemed like a harmless thing. I'm sure that's not the same at school anymore, but.
On a scale of 1 to 10, 1 being the least unhealthy, 10 being the healthiest, how healthy do you think your content consumption is?
The quality of the content I'm content with. The amount, ebbs and flows. I work with my hands a lot, so I often have headphones in, and with the YouTube Premium account, you can listen to audio instead of have to watch it. So a lot of times I use YouTube videos almost as podcasts, which a lot of content is now podcast based. I'd probably say a 6, just out of self-preservation and not trying to feel terrible, because again, I can detach. The reason I got into letterpress printing was to get off of the computer. So I don't necessarily like to, the phone and then it being on my smart TV, that's a lot of instances where it's catching me.
What's your average screen time?
I can look it up and find screen time. There we go. My daily average right now, 6 hours across all devices. Yeah, I'm a big fan of Doughboys, which is a food review podcast. They review chain restaurants. 2 comedians, Nick Weiger and Mike Mitchell, have comedians on, and it's basically what it sounds like. They jive a little bit, and then they go and they review Dairy Queen or Randy's Donuts. Great podcast. I'm a subscriber and a Patreon supporter, so I'm in the Platinum Plate Club. I consume a lot of their content. This is one of my main podcasts that I actually enjoy listening to, and so I feel like I should give them, a subscription to kind of help support their cause. So my wife and I are both big fans, and so usually when we have coffee and breakfast in the morning, that episode drops early in the day, we throw it on the TV and watch it together. I could talk about Andrew Camarada all day.
Who is he?
So Andrew is a property maintenance professional out of upstate New York, but he captures a lot of content. The first video I saw of him was him buying a $100 Wave Runner off Facebook Marketplace and seeing if he could get it to work. I was like, oh, this is really cool. And then I discovered his channel, and he built a shipping container home that he's turned into a castle, so it looks like that's what he's working on here in this video. No talking, just a lot of GoPros set up of him just getting stuff done. I think that's why I enjoy it, is because it feels like I'm accomplishing something, but he's actually doing all the work. And yeah, he's got a very agreeable mind when it comes to the way stuff should be built and designed. He holds everything to a really high standard, and I feel like that's carried over of why are we building everything so cheap? Everything should be built to last. We don't make things like we used to, and I find that true with a lot of the work that I do. Somehow stuff gets cheaper and crappier yet more expensive. But yeah, Andrew Camarada, very long form stuff. This video is 2 hours long, so you can kind of put it on and tune in, tune out, but also feel like you're doing something. If I get up earlier than my wife on the weekends, I'm having coffee, I might put on some Andrew Camarada. She's not a fan of just watching the guy drive a tractor in circles, but I am. Another channel I love here, Quarter Hoarder. So during the pandemic, I got into metal detecting, equal parts geography, history, science. I'm also into synthesizers, and this has like a weird connection to that. Metal detectors are a weird sort of synthesizer that detects metal and turns it into a tone. And Quarter Hoarder was one of the channels that I found that I was like, oh, this is so awesome. The only catch is that they often metal detect in old colonial areas that have been inhabited for a long time with old coins. So they're always finding, coins from the 1700s, whereas here in Texas, you can find stuff, but not colonial pre-war stuff.
What are you finding?
You find pennies, you find, bottle caps and stuff, metal condom wrapper from the 50s, which was really weird. I know that they used to come wrapped like little gold coins. I thought it was a yogurt top until I read the word prophylactic. I was like, oh, okay, cool. I found my engagement ring that I gave to my wife, metal detecting. It's not a real diamond, so don't tell her that. Quarter Hoarder just has, a great thing going on with his personality and the way he cuts his videos together, and the whole gang of detectors that he works with. They're always finding cool stuff because they find these really cool old, farmhouses that have been there since the 1700s, 10 years ago. He's been there for a while. They subscribe to a lot of what you're seeing here. Retro Sound, again, one of the early channels I subscribe to. He's a synthesizer collector, and so he just does synth demos. This right here, I'm sure he figured out how the Kinks must have set up their synthesizers. I don't know, but yeah, it's, Retro Sound's cool. All analog synthesizers.
You want practical engineering?
Yeah, I love practical engineering. Always on the home screen, it seems like. Quality content that I feel good about watching. It's like, I walk away being like, oh, that's what a tractor does. Very cool stuff. Let's see here. Yeah, some random stuff will just pop up, obviously, that I don't necessarily know how, like the guitar stuff. I don't play guitar. State park stuff is probably coming up because I'm planning a trip to a state park soon. So I've been learning a lot about the South Llano River State Park. What to expect. Yeah, he's on here somewhere, I'm sure. Yeah, no, I've been following that for a number of years too. Another Sunday morning show that I would watch. Yeah, I'm bummed that he's gone. It's sad, but more power to him. When I first saw the thumbnail, I was like, no, like this is a joke. And then I think I had that slow oh my God. It's serious. Like he's ending. What am I gonna do on Saturday mornings? Like, what is happening? But can't imagine at the scale that he was of what that would do to a regular person who maybe wasn't even ready for that. Who was like, yeah, I do really cool stuff, and if you want to come along, come on. And then suddenly he's like getting accosted at the store or something. I don't. In modern terms, so much YouTube content is like one person kind of talking at a camera and in a studio setting. Whereas these are a little bit kind of like what I was saying, getting out into the world and actually doing anything that you're interested in. It just so happens I'm gonna film what I'm doing. And if you wanna watch, cool, check it out. But speaking to those specifically, there's a certain zen that comes out of watching somebody else accomplish something that they set out to accomplish and getting to follow that, but also the way that they're edited is often a little bit more long form and a little bit more, not as polished, right? It's a little more raw still. It has that old YouTube kind of feel, like they haven't changed too much in the way that a lot of new, very polished YouTube stuff can kind of be. No offense. This is great. Historically, we would sit around the TV and kind of tune into whatever was broadcast, but the freedom of being able to kind of search and look for whatever I want to get, into, I feel like YouTube kind of serves that purpose. I am a baseball fan, specifically the Houston Astros, and so John Boy Media always does a lot of really interesting recaps of weird plays, baseball fights, all that kind of stuff. And John Boy has a great presence and a great narrative voice. Does the lip reading of, umpires versus coaches, often ridiculous. Oh, Myron Cook, heck yeah. So this is one that I've gotten into recently. Myron makes videos about geology, specifically a lot of times in Yellowstone and the Rocky Mountains and Montana area, but he's a very good educator and he has a really good way of talking about geology in a way that doesn't make you feel like you're at the beginning stages, but also that you don't have a degree in geology to understand it. It's this weird kind of he doesn't talk to you like a baby, he gives you the real words, but it's also ingestible and digestible. He gets out there and actually explores a lot of this sawtooth feature somewhere in Wyoming, it looks like.
So are you into geology stuff?
I guess so. I don't know. Apparently, no. I do like hiking. That's what I love about Austin being on the Balcones fault line, is that it's geologically rich in fossils and rocks and history. And so I don't know what prompted the algorithm to serve me Myron Cook, but I'm glad it did, because I now I'm watching 14-minute videos about specific geological features. This isn't necessarily a channel, but this has been a subject of fascination to me. Fred Dibna was a steeplejack. So like a factory, would have a boiler or something that they would burn coal for boiling water, making heat, whatever. So you'd have those giant, factory smokestacks. Inevitably would start to rot because they were built in the 1800s, early 1900s. Steeplejacks were responsible for maintaining steeples and smokestacks, which is a very dangerous job. Since they were always built in really densely populated urban areas, you couldn't just demolish it. So you literally have to break them down brick by brick, collapsing them into themselves. So he scales these smokestacks, knocks them off brick by brick, and throws them inside until they can get it down to a small enough thing that they can knock the whole thing down. So it was up to folks like Fred go up there, giant scale chimney sweep basically, which is what he's doing here. But yeah, I really like the way he talks. He has a very, I don't know what kind of English accent it is, but he has an English accent and he's fun to listen to.
This might be my favorite algorithm.
Thanks, man, thanks. Architectural Digest, which obviously is like kind of a bigger entity in and of itself, but they make really good YouTube content. I love architecture. That's one of my true kind of side passions outside of graphic design. I really like the kind of stuff that AD talks about. They also do like celebrity home tours, which scratches that other itch. Michael Weitzner does a lot of really cool New York stuff. I really like watching his videos. Really good communicator and educator who knows his stuff and has worked in New York for a long time. Where do you want me to go now?
Subscription.
Cool. Are You Garbage? Comedy podcast. The premise being the title. They'll invite comedians on. The whole goal of exploring are you garbage in a very broad sense. They have a whole list of questions that they go through to figure out, are you a classy person or are you more of a trashy person? Retro stuff. Ian Fidance is kind of a recurring guest on there. He's been on there quite a bit. He's always a hoot. Yeah. Very, very much garbage. Yeah, one here off to the side, Stuart Hicks, another sort of more recent channel that I got into. Stuart does a lot of architecture. I mean, it's all architecture. He's based out of Chicago. I think he teaches in Chicago.
It looks like really well made.
It is, yeah. That's one of the things that I appreciated, how high quality it looks. This one's about blueprints and the history of blueprint printing. Ties in with what I do. But a lot of really interesting subject matter. Oh yeah, the skywalk collapse. Even if you're not interested in architecture, you should watch this because it's very approachable. You don't have to know anything about architecture to actually watch this, but oh, interesting, yeah, good stuff. I wonder how big of a team he might have, but also can't just discredit how talented some people are. Maybe they're both great communicators, but also content creators. Niall Red, Niall Blue, I'm sure you're familiar with his content. Fascinating little science channel. I don't know how he does all the things that he does because he does some really like high-end, high-level seeming scientific experiments, but it feels like a kid playing around in the science lab after school. There was one that I watched recently that's kind of sticks in my head where he tried to condense caffeine content of 100 Red Bulls into one bottle of Red Bull.
Oh, I just saw that.
Yeah, and so that was really, because it was like in my head of like, yeah, you just evaporate all the liquid out and you take that and you rehydrate it. So, well, there's science there that doesn't allow that to happen. He didn't hit his original hypothesis. Watching the learning and the kind of like reworking of that hypothesis in real time was pretty cool. Down here is a lot of just like, I don't know if this was just early days, but like, Sally Cruikshank was an illustrator that did a lot of stuff in the 80s, and I found that she had a YouTube channel. It doesn't look very active, but she did some really cool outsider animation. I couldn't tell you, that was probably almost 20 years ago that I found out about her. I think I was actually working at Alma Draft House and they hosted one of the animation festivals because the animation festival tapes still exist. And I worked in a used bookstore for a long time. So it probably was like I got a VHS tape that would have been around 2009 and found out about her that way. I think these repositories for content and like ideas and information are really important. The kind of switch from a focus on like user-generated content to a little bit more mainstream content on the platform has changed, I think, how a lot of people both perceive the platform and use the platform. But I still use it as a like scrapbook, basically, of like, I need to earmark this so I can come back to it, just like I'm doing right now. Like, oh, all right, I forgot. Like, I haven't probably seen this since 2010 or something. When I joined Instagram, it was a personal scrapbook. I think this is really neat looking. I want to save this so that I can later go back and look at it. So it's a visual scrapbook, and I try and use social media and platforms like that because it's very easy to then let it become your news source or like your echo chambers and like these kind of areas where you get in and you feel like I'm already consuming too much bad news. Like I don't need to come onto this platform that I elected to be on and then be kind of bombarded with stuff that isn't going to nurture my brain. Joe Kappa's fun, animator, illustrator, does some really weird kind of Adult Swim style animation. I think he had a show on Adult Swim, but I know him from his YouTube channel. Tony Hawk doing his What's in My Bag, which is comparable to what we're doing today, where he talks about the albums and movies that influenced him. You know, growing up as a kid in the 90s and 2000s, Tony Hawk's pro skater. I rode BMX. Very familiar with Tony Hawk.
What about Conan?
It's funny. I mean, no, I mean, we watched late night, you know, growing up. Conan's my favorite late night host of all time. Writer on The Simpsons and all of his work that he's a funny guy. Yeah, auto plays body cam videos sometimes, which I'm like, I don't want to see this. Like, that stuff stresses me out.
Stolen SUV heading down.
I will say though, I do enjoy the interrogation videos. Not from necessarily the true crime aspect, but the like social pressure aspect of like this dichotomy or this dynamic that's happening in this like very intense moment. But if I watch too much of that, that gets me a little like, oh, a little heebie-jeebie.
Like imagine yourself in that situation.
Yeah, that's why I want. Yeah. No, I'm always like, here's what I do. Like, I'm not gonna fall for that. Never talk to the police. Yeah, more Doughboys, Heidelberg Windmill, which is a printing press that I use. This was an interesting video, creating a go-kart strictly from Harbor Freight parts. Not a channel I'm familiar with at all. It just came up on the suggested because of the other content I watch. And they did it. They built a go-kart for less than $300 using just a bunch of weird random parts from Harbor Freight. What else? Practical Engineering, Take Your Shoes Off podcast, another good comedy podcast, Rick Glassman, shout out to him. Oh yeah. My wife had to kind of catch me up as to what was going on with that. You know, you gotta give it to somebody for putting their heart out there, but also it's like, you don't have to do that.
In yourself, you're living the American dream. And I'll be
I can't do it. I can't do it. I'm sorry. Hey, is it Brendan? Good on you, but I don't like what I'm seeing. Yeah, that was an interesting one. You know, it's kind of one of those things that I've noticed too. Of like, you walk into every restaurant, and it's subway tile and boring font, and it's like, cool. But yeah, Practical Engineering, love it. His rail series was great. I'm a huge rail fan, so like having somebody be as equally excited about rail is a lot of fun. I promise I didn't look up converting milliliters to liters. I don't know how that came up because I can do that pretty easily. I understand the metric system. This was a cool one. This was all about also a low-grade aviation fan, and the DC-10's a really cool old plane that you rarely see anymore. So this is all a video about why the airline industry stopped focusing on triple-engine planes in lieu of dual and quad-engine planes. So very engineering focused sort of thing, but still interesting and kind of.
Yeah, you seem to just sweating a lot of stuff up like you're
For better or for worse though, right? What's getting squeezed out of my brain that I otherwise should have held on to? Do I need to know the history of circus peanuts? Probably not. So we host a lot of really interesting workshops. So you can go to pressroomaustin.com to see what workshops we're offering. Really fun, super engaging, entry-level stuff where you get to explore a collection, print from the collection, you walk away with your own printed edition, which you get to sign and number. So check it out, pressroomaustin.com. Thanks for watching.
All right, good stuff.
Cool.
Thank you.
Sweet.
That was great.
Cool. Thank you. Appreciate it. Yep.
That was really great. Yeah.